All right. Okay. Ooh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. I'm just going to share my screen.
Sorry, I forgot to enter the room. If you wouldn't mind trying to share your screen.
Yeah, it's sharing now. Can you see that?
Let's see. I can hear you. I'm trying to figure out where the
So my screen is sharing.
let's see. Oh, sorry, hold on. I'm getting feedback from myself. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right, let me configure some stuff. All right, so I will spotlight for everyone. Oh, wait. Add spotlight.
Mhm.
And then let me pull up. For some reason, I can't see. That's my fault.
Technology.
Yeah. There we go. Spotlight this year. Okay, could you try sharing again? Is it still sharing?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to try share that again.
Sure, thank you.
And there, from beginning. Okay, can you see that now?
Yes, I can. Okay. And can you let me pull Shane in?
Okay,
Shane.
okay.
Yes. Are you able to see the shared screen and also the ASL interpreter?
Thank you.
Yes, please, because everything's sounded And
Say that again. Sorry.
saying yes, I can, but not currently in the config. Like if I go on Fats's screen, it says about mods sharing. I will see
Yes.
and then I would see everybody pinned at the top,
Okay.
but it doesn't have like an attendee view yet. I guess maybe that's because we're not in the haven't started the webinar.
Right. Right. Okay. Let me see. How about now? Anything different?
Still the same.
Okay. I think if as long as I keep ASL pinned, we'll be good accessibility wise.
Yeah,
Okay. That was just my biggest concern. And then it does pop up that the screen sharing is showing. So
yeah.
okay. All right.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Thank
To
y'all.
try it by starting the webinar or no?
Say it again.
Did you want to try it by starting the webinar or no?
Um, no, I think we'll be good. Um, yeah, we'll just use this like it's a normal meeting. Um,
Okay.
cool. All right, I'm gonna send everyone backstage.
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and get started. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Black and Neuro Week 2026. Today's event is Neuro Careers, where we'll be talking and discussing about neuro careers with our lovely panel speakers here. Before we introduce all of our speakers, we have some announcements. Live ASL interpretation and automatic closed captioning is enabled in this Zoom webinar. You can choose to view or hide closed captions by clicking the live transcript or show captions button. If you have any issues accessing these captions, please message our ghost moderators in the chat or in the Q&A. So we are all joining this talk from around the world, and so we want to invite everyone to take a moment to reflect on the lands you're joining from and your relationship to those lands and to the indigenous peoples who have and continue to inhabit them. So for more information, please visit the link, which will be shared. And then we'll also encourage people to visit our website and register to become a member of Black in Neuro. And the great part is it's free. So with that, I would like to introduce our speakers. So today we have here Dr. Tanya, we have Douglas, and we also have Fatmata. To start this off, I want to open the floor to our panels to actually introduce themselves briefly and then walk us through like the key transitions in your career that led you to like your current role now. And so Dr. Tanya, I'll let you introduce yourself first and answer that.
Thank you, Peace, for that introduction. Dr. Tanya here. I always go by Tanya. I don't know why. So I'm actually the Chief Product Officer at a company called Analog Insight. They do semiconductor work. So think about NVIDIA, TSMC, Taiwan, chip technology. I actually started off my career as a neuromorphic engineer. So that means I was making computer chips that think like the brain. And that was what my PhD was in. And I was so passionate about the field that I've evolved so many ways to be where I am at the moment, but essentially trying to knock on why we can't get chips that work precisely like the brain in current architectures beyond just science and development, which goes towards things like policy and kind of like supply chain. And that's where my career has taken me now to being in this position. Key transitions. My PhD not being commercialized, which is why I ended up here. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. It's amazing to see your transition from where you were and where you are now. So that's amazing. So now, Dr. or Douglas, would you also introduce yourself and also share like, you know, your key transitions in your career that led you to where you are now? Oh, I think you're muted, Douglas.
Sorry,
Oh,
can you hear me now?
yes, can hear you.
Alrighty. I'm Douglas, Dr. Asedi, if you want. I have like two key transition point in my career. One of them was even moving from Nigeria to Finland. And then I did my PhD in neuroscience. So I was a postdoctoral fellow for about 5 years in an academic center. And then I decided to go to medical school after that. So that was huge from being, at the bench to actually trying to do like clinical care. So I transitioned from being a scientist to going to medical school. And right now, I'm a senior neurology resident at the Florida Atlantic University. So the key transition was, leaving Nigeria to Finland at that point, then to some other places. And then the big one again was the transitioning from being a scientist to going to medical school to get my MD, and then right now being a neurology resident.
Wow, amazing. That's actually such a not drastic change, but it's nice to see again that transition that you are where you were and then coming to where you are now. So amazing. And so now we have Fatmata. If you could also introduce yourself and walk us through your transition in your career.
Do you want me to share my screen now or?
Oh, yes, sure.
I have a mini little PowerPoint because I will forget what to say when I'm speaking about myself. So hopefully you can all see the screen. Now?
Yes.
Right, great. So I'm Fat Mata. And I started off my academic career in neuroscience, so very specifically in cellular and molecular neuroscience, specifically looking at the molecular pathways used by serotonin, specifically focused on anxiety and depression. After that, I had a massive drastic shift where I started working in widening participation. And that is essentially working with students from underrepresented backgrounds in higher education and, helping them to essentially get in to that. I then went back and I did a master's in educational neuroscience, where I again focused on students and adolescents, looking at specifically cognitive function, cognitive ability, and specifically how that impacts students from underrepresented backgrounds, how that then impacts education and outcomes. I then made another switch where I then started doing widening participation and student success, but I very specifically focused on how educational neuroscience impacts student success, but very, very specifically individuals from racialized and ethnically minoritized backgrounds. And then I started doing my PhD, which is focused on race, mental health, and very specifically how mental health is dealt with in higher education, but again, very specifically focused on individuals from racially and ethnically marginalized backgrounds. I am currently working as the head of race equity and impact. So I'm doing race equity work and research work at the same time, again, focusing on that, but then using my skills in a slightly different way than other people do. So yeah, that's me.
Wow, wow. I think the common theme that I'm hearing from all of you is that you had that transition. You, again, started off in something maybe neuro related, but now you're in totally different fields, but you're still able to apply that. So I guess the one thing I'm wondering is, looking back for all of you, was there like a defining moment or decision that changed the trajectory? Like, what made you, okay, I need to pivot and change into the career that you're in now? And anyone can go.
Yeah, I can go first. I think for me, really, it was in my undergrad. I know that sounds really dramatic, but specifically being within institutions that did not cater for ethnic minority individuals, I started to automatically think, how can I use these skills to very specifically aid in kind of equity work? So I started thinking about that from the very start. And it was funny actually, because I had a part-time job in uni where we would go into schools and talk to kids. And a random member of staff said, have you ever thought of widening participation? And I never had. So her name is Charlotte Brooks, and I'll never forget her. And from there, I just kept doing that, but then also doing work around mental health and specifically how executive function impacts people differently. So Charlotte Brooks, yeah, she told me about something I didn't know I could do.
Wow, nice. Lovely to hear that. At least there was someone in your life that helped with that transition. What about you, Dr. Tanya or Tanya?
Um, it's called me Tanya. I'm a bit of a different like wildcat when it comes to this because I've had like 20 different transitions in the last 10 years, so I can't name all of them. But what is really important for me is the transition from academia or being academically minded to being what I am now, which is now at the bridge of entrepreneurship, but also at the bridge of like what science can do and also commercial. Like it's a very varied space that I actually live in. And what actually made that similar to like the last speaker, literally was a friend who was like, if I were you, I would have been an entrepreneur. And then she like dared me in a way. And then I went into like a different path than academia. So yes, there was a pivotal point in that. And one thing that underlined all of that, what is really, really important, especially in this forum, is how despite everything that came with me being myself, from my race, gender, and also my immigration status, all of that, I had people who literally were like, okay, we don't give a crap. Could you kind of do this, please? And, be an entrepreneur because we need this technology in-house. And that has been a theme throughout. And for me, I've been extremely lucky that in my field, especially, I think it's very unique that every time I do a pivot, it's because someone has like pushed me or pulled me, literally and begged me to be there. So I have a purpose to be there, which is quite different. Yeah.
Wow, I definitely can echo that as well. I feel like a lot of people, and even personally myself, I was pushed and someone mentioned something. So that's
Yeah.
interesting here. I guess, Douglas, do you have a similar story or are you going to tell us something different?
I think at this point we're all pushed pretty much. So,
Okay.
so for context, I did my PhD in neuroscience, looking at you know, molecular mechanisms and behavioral approach to learning and memory. So
Mm,
looking at different brain regions. So when I moved to the US for my postdoc, one of my responsibilities at that time was to mentor medical student and PhD students. So and medical student would end up, they were interested in research. So they will end up coming, I'll publish with them, then they will use the research and, as part of the whole package, then get into medical school. And one of them was like, okay, you do a lot of this behavioral research and things that are that's actually very close to the clinic.
mhm,
Did you ever think about being able to translate whatever you're doing right now from bench side to the clinic? And me always I've always wanted to be a medical doctor from day one. I fell in love with neuroscience along the way, which ended up being very beautiful. So the prompts from multiple medical students end up being in residency and becoming doctors. That was actually one of my triggers. And that actually prompted me. And after 4 years of postdoctoral training, I decided to go to medical school. And here's another twist.
okay.
While I was preparing for MCAT, I had an accident where I
Oh,
had a traumatic brain injury. And then I got off from that and I was like, okay, I definitely want to want
yeah.
to go. And I was helped by a neurologist. And I was like, okay, I definitely want to go into medical school and I'll be a neurologist. And that was exactly what actually that was the final kick I actually needed. And here I am.
Wow, that's interesting here. Of course, like unfortunate to have gotten into an accident, but it, I guess, led you to where you are now and led you to being the person who's kind of like doing what they're doing as well. So that's amazing. So I guess all of you mentioned like that transition, that person or thing that kind of changed your trajectory. So that kind of alludes to the fact that, our careers aren't linear, and I see that in just based off of our discussion that your path wasn't linear. So, what do you think like successfully helped you navigate like that career transition? So, was it the people, or was it thing, or what did you do to actually navigate that transition from academia to where you are now, or vice versa?
Um,
I,
go ahead.
no, no.
Right, right. So for me, I would say like being open. So from the day one of being in PhD, like I transitioned from being a pure like material scientist to neuromorphic computing and like doing working with bioscience people and all that stuff and doing like brain stuff to becoming a manufacturer to be I've transited like so many times. And what helped me there is like each time I transition, I get stronger in being a researcher. And also I get breadth, which a lot of people don't. So one thing that has helped me with transitioning is how fast I can move from one field to another, to another, to another, and grasp it enough to be confident in what I'm saying and confident enough to be able to sell it. So for me, the one thing that has helped with the transition is just being present, show up to things, saying yes, which sounds so like
Cliche,
Like,
but
yeah, cliche. It's so cliche to say, show up, but show up and say yes and go into the room and talk to people and make friends. And then you never know what that transition would actually end up being. I kid you not, like the opportunities I've had in like my career in the last like since I finished my PhD like 4 years have been tremendous because I just showed up. I
Mhm.
did nothing else but being myself and put forward the passion that I actually have. Which when I talk about my passions, it's about, computing, how we get closer to like what the brain works and how we actually implement it in like scale. And people are like, you're cuckoo, which is great. But also you're talented enough to be able to articulate for me to think about actually giving you money. And that's all it took. So I think for me, what helped with the transition is showing up. And when you show up, show out. And then when you're there, actually have your best self out there. And your best self is not it's not everything else that defines you, but anything that makes you actually happy. And that has helped me tremendously in pivoting.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. And I definitely can agree that showing out honestly opens opportunities. And so to our audience, I hope you guys heard what Dr. Tanya said. Show out, be present. And so that's lovely to hear. Fatmata?
Yeah, Dr. Tanya, that was, yeah, just saying yes to just random things will just lead you in, yeah. Yeah.
The right
Um,
doors.
yeah. But I think my sort of biggest thing that helped was, this is going to sound very corny, but it was thinking about purpose. So thinking very specifically, what are my internal values and how can I apply that to everything I do? So I do a bunch of different things, neuroscience, mental health, race, and equity work. I'm currently doing storytelling work and kind of narratives, and it is all based around one shared value of just justice. And that's basically it. And that can turn up in a range of different ways. And when that specific value turns up, I just follow it. And I think I'm quite lucky, I think, because like Dr. Tanya said, a lot of people will just ask you to do things, and then if you say yes, you don't know where that leads. So I think for me, that has definitely helped with, because my career does seem a little bit random, but there is a thread that follows that, and that is all I can say for kind of anyone. Because, and I'm not gonna lie, education was rough. That undergrad and postgrad, it is it is a grind. And I think having a core purpose will help you figure out everything else.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely do agree that having that goal, at least for me, that's what drives me as well to do what I do. So it's nice to hear that and see through all of your work that you're able to stay true to that purpose and that internal goal. So Douglas, do you have anything to mention here about like, the transition, what helps you transition or what has helped you to transition?
I actually echo what everyone just said, but one thing that helped me was just being open-minded, being open-minded. So here's a typical example. So I know we all did the PhD. When my PhD, I was just specialized on a part of the brain, maybe no, maybe three. Amygdala was my main focus. And you know how it is in PhD, you take a particular topic and you deal with it, you know everything about it. Then I went to med school where they throw everything at you. Throw everything. Yeah, you're learning different things, but it was different for me. At first, first few months, I was still trying to like know everything to the dot, but I needed to be a little bit more to adapt a little more. The style I studied in med school in PhD and all those kind of stuff was different in med school. And I was very open to how it was done. In fact, people were another key resources to me. Back, I had to like talk to someone. How do you guys actually study here? You know, Someone actually helped. I was open-minded. I wanted to learn new ways to do new things, and I was very I was able to adapt to the new system. So being open-minded and being ready to adapt to different situation has been what actually helped me along the way.
That makes sense. And
Um,
oh,
Yeah, so sorry, Peace. I'll just echo what Douglas has just said. Being open-minded, I think it ties back to what I said before. Being open-minded and going to those places and exploring your mind is really, really important. Like he said, I did my PhD in neuromorphic computing, my undergrad in material science and engineering. I've been in VC, I've worked at Dyson, I've like worked at particle accelerators, and now I am a chief product officer at a company that until 2 months ago, I didn't know what they did, but they make a shit ton of money. So being nimble and being able to flow and throughout seeing the bigger vision, but also being able to zone in and out is really, really important. And that adaptability that Douglas has just mentioned is really, really important. Because honestly, the position I'm in now, if you told me 3 years ago, I'd be like, you're joking. I'm not, I'm not gonna lie. But it is because you're nimble, you can learn. You're using your core skills of research to be able to tailor what you want to be in the next part and how you can help that bigger vision or that focus that you have. Because I am still so attached to neuromorphic computing, but I know I have to do a lot more around it to build that society. So again, you have to be able to go zoning in and out and be adaptable. So yeah, echoing Douglas.
Mm.
yeah, I definitely agree. I think honestly, throughout life, and if you're trying to like navigate a career in neuroscience, maybe not neuroscience, but just in the scientific world, you have to be adaptable. You have to be willing to learn and to really, be passionate about learning. I think that's the key thing. Be passionate about learning, be open to everything. So it's nice to hear that. And I love the fact that you guys mentioned some of those skills. So I guess I would love to go a little bit deeper into like, what are those skills or qualities that have been the most important for building your career, like building when you in your career right now? Like what are those skills? And honestly, just international, like because of some of you are international and work different places, what are those skills and qualities that have been important for you?
Hmm. That's a great question. What skills do you have? It's interesting because I was having this conversation today with someone from a different role, and we were just talking about how some people have just the ability to kind of set shift very quickly, so changing from kind of one task to the next. I think there are specific executive functions that specifically scientists have that can enable you to basically do multiple things at the same time. That's a nerdy version, but in general, I think what the specific skills that have genuinely helped me is the ability to set shift, is the ability to hold multiple things at the same time and then connect and then see how they connect, even if other people don't. And I think that is really helpful for kind of when you are super passionate about something, whether it's the amygdala, could you focus that in schools? Could you think about how that works in terms of memory? Could you go into computing? So you're still looking at that in the same way. But I think for me, it's that creativity that comes with that ability to basically see things from a wide view instead of just looking at it really straight on. So set shifting and creativity have been incredibly important for me.
Yeah, that
I
makes sense.
mean, I agree with you 110%. I could have not put it any better, by the way. Because that ability to be able to say, I'm going to do 20,000 things, but I still have a goal that is like, coherent. I have to articulate it to other people, but I'm gonna do 20,000 things, and it's gonna be a goal, and I have a goal, and it's there. It's
Yeah.
actually it's exciting, and it makes me happy to wake up in the morning and say like I'm gonna do 20,000 things, and I know where I'm going. And it was like you're
Yeah.
crazy, but it's a skill set that you get. And I
Mm.
think for us all the panelists, we are PhDs or have PhDs in one way or another, and I think the research focus or like having time in our adults' life to just do research and go through that that experiment of life is really, really important because if you asked me before my PhD, could I function the way I function right now? No. Right now, I can function with like 300 tabs open and I nail like half of them. The other half, they fail and I do not cry about it because that's life. So all that, and then still having a focus and still having to be able to multitask is a skill set that has enabled so much, like so much. So I absolutely agree with you. Yeah.
Douglas,
And
yeah.
okay, and for me, so for lack of a better word, being know something so much that you're able to improvise. I'll give you an example. While I was, of course, I moved from Nigeria to Finland to England and then to Germany and then to the US. But here's the thing. Along those transitions, you would get to places where they don't have equal resources and you wouldn't have the same access to things, right? Typical example, I worked in a place where knowing when you're trying to locate a brain region, you would manually lower your drill and you would lower the electrode manually until you get to the brain region. You just use like manual geometry to know where you're going. Okay, that was how I started. But then I got to a place where they had like a robotic way. You don't need all the drawing lines and everything. So you being able to improvise, but at other time the robot broke down. Then it is the burden will be on you to actually know your stuff so well that you should be able to identify the brain region you're trying to localize without a robot. So being able to improvise, and I can't even I can speak on this forever. Another example, um, if you're into brain research and everything, back in the days, you need to stain different brain cells to know what kind of brain cells they are. But when I started my PhD back then, my professor in Oxford then, he knew it so well that he can actually tell you, it would be like these neurons you're looking at is this type of neuron. If you stain it, it's going to be positive for social markers. And you would do it, and then it turned out to be so. So I got myself to a point that I would be able to identify something like that just by looking at it without staining. So what am I trying to say? Being able to improvise and being very good at what you do, that even without technology, you should be able to function.
Yeah, and I definitely agree there. That knowledge, being able to know your stuff, being that expert in the room, is definitely important and something I will continue to echo. And so I guess Douglas, you mentioned, Nigeria, Finland, I wonder, and just being across these different cultures and whatnot, what skills do you think are like overlooked or become more increasingly valuable over like, the next decade in this global space that you just notice with your transition? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. Okay. One skill I think people often overlook while trying to be the best at whatever they do is relationship.
Mm,
Okay. Relationship and collaboration. So what this does for you, relationship and collaboration will will translate your data from being local to global.
yeah.
If you meet people in conferences, right, that is an opportunity to give your best 5 minute speech.
Mm,
If you have to rehearse this forever before you see anyone, that's totally fine. But every opportunity you have, I think relationship for me is just one thing that people often look. You can build your grade all you want. In fact, good grades are easy. Let's lack of a better term. Anyone, you can be book smart forever. But will that open doors for you? Yeah, well, maybe your foot right there. But what keeps it going and what announces you beyond where you are is the relationship you build, like, and how you're able to sell yourself. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no,
that I think is key.
no, that definitely
I
makes sense.
mean,
Being able to have that relationship makes sense. Yes.
Um, just to supplement that and to give you like that in practice, when I left my PhD, I was purely academic, right? And I finished my PhD and I went to work at like Dyson, the blow dryer place. It was great. And then I went into VC. from VC to like until like last 2 months ago, I was working on my own startup with VC money backing. And throughout those 3 years, I sold myself. Like I would be in a room and I would show up, like I said before, and I would make those relationships. And they were so tangible that I became anonymous. Like if my company name was there, they think of me. If I'm there, it was like that level. And it went across the board, right? And was really, really impactful to a point that I think it was like maybe 4 months ago, because of relationships and networking, I was talking to a colleague. Someone overheard me saying, "Bloody hell, I hate this startup." And they literally beelined towards me and were like, "Do you want to work for me? Do you want to be my CTO? I'll give you money." Like I was scouted to my new role that I am at the moment because of networking. And honestly, if you ever think I would think about the job I am at the moment in like 2 years ago, I'm like, "You're joking." Like I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But I got there not because I'm smart, not because I have a PhD from Cambridge, not because like I don't even know half of the stuff these guys can do. I just know like they know I'm a great networker. And underneath all of that, I have smarts, like PhD, great. But that network got me my job. So do not underestimate the importance of being in a room, showing up, making friends, because one day they'll literally be like and try to like poach you before you're even poachable, and then realize, oh my God, I'm poachable. So cannot
Yeah.
echo that enough.
And just to follow up on that, if you are like me and you don't like people and you get overwhelmed by like conferences because it's too much noise and I think you can still build those networks, you can still build those relationships. You might just have to be a little bit more creative about it. You might just have to um, actually form relationships with people who can mention your name in rooms when you are not there. That can also be very, very powerful. And that comes with just being a nice person. That sounds really weird, but some people are just not nice. And because of that, some people might not want to work with you. I have done things again because I don't like people. I have published books and papers with friends. So, I'll and again, those are networks you can build as well. Some of us, it takes us a little bit more time because we're like, oh no, I don't want to talk to people. And I think that's kind of okay, but you can work around it. You can have a Dr. Tanya as a friend who is out there and you can hide behind them a bit. So you can still do it. Yeah, just be a little bit more creative about how.
And just to emphasize on that point, by the way, the
Yeah.
current company that I work for, the founder, Christian, and the lead of like programs, they're both introverts. They hate speaking. So
Oh,
for David was like, we're gonna get Tanya in and she's gonna fix everything. So
Yeah.
again, there are people who are willing to champion you and like put you in the right rooms, like me. You don't have to be like me. You can be like my mates. And oh my God, are they freaking brilliant? And I'm happy to be able to like be their voice to some extent in this
Mm,
role that is really, really nice. But again, you do not have to be, but you still have to show up. How
yeah.
you show up might not be being in every room. It might be like you say, like publish a book, publish an article, start something, like do something that you're really good at and hand it over to someone else. And
mm,
community is your best instrument. I kid you not. Like the community you build and the network that you build is everything. Because again, you can't do everything yourself. You might be too introverted or too extroverted. You might be good at one thing and not the other. Get the right people around you, and that's all you need.
mm.
So absolutely echo that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And honestly, I think this it's nice to hear these things and to be able to see that, okay, these are kind of like the things that I need to be able to use and the skills I need to acquire. So again, to our audience that, be adaptable, but also be able to network, have that relationship, because again, navigating your career, those are the things that really help you to stand out. And so I guess we've talked about like, the positives and the skills and whatnot. We all know that careers are not always positive. We've had some some bumps and whatnot. So in your experience, like you have all worked in like different countries, cultures, whatever it may be, but what challenges did you guys face? Like you can give examples. What challenge have you faced? And like how did you solve that challenge, or what helped you to adapt, especially as you were in these careers, we have those hardships. So what helped you there?
I think Cleona and Deshane will laugh at this. Like I'm a strong believer of leaving.
Oh,
I am a leaver.
Amen,
Um,
sis.
walk out.
yeah. I just to be clear, so I'm currently in the UK. I did all of my schooling has been here. And we have big problems. Big problems. And currently, academia as a space is unfortunately it is falling apart, because of the government and kind of things being put into place. So it's not necessarily only a kind of individual thing, it's an institutional thing that is currently happening, also with Black researchers too. And I think that has been really challenging, and even in kind of medicine, and doctors. Douglas, I also almost accidentally became a medical doctor. I did the first year of medical school, but right now in kind of doctors do not have jobs and it is really difficult, and the kind of challenge I am seeing is that we are spending all of this time and all of this energy, and some of us are fighting tooth and nail. We finish and there's nothing at the end for us anymore, and that for me has been a really big challenge. The kind of way I have dealt with that is to look at the space, and if it's toxic and if my locks are gonna fall out, I have to leave. Um, and but again, having those skills to be able to be flexible, look at what you can do and basically how can it apply into different in industries, I think is such a valuable thing. And I am still learning it. I am still learning how not to rely on someone else to basically tell me my value.
Mm.
And that, I think, as racially and ethnically marginalized individuals is really important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Being able to recognize when to leave, when this is no longer no longer fulfilling or no longer helping me, that makes sense. Douglas, do you have any challenges in how you were able to adapt? I know you mentioned a few earlier, but would love to hear.
Yeah. So challenges like cross-cultural wise, let me even give like even a very funny one. I'm going to talk about more scientific one. This is like an icebreaker pretty much. So when I moved from Nigeria to Finland, I think I moved, I think it was like October. So at that time, you still have the sunlight, it's still bright until like midnight, right? So that was a big cultural shock for me. In fact, during the interview, when I was being asked, how are you going to adapt to the cold shock when you move from Nigeria being very tropical to Finland? Oh, I was like, we are Nigerians, we adapt anyway. So when I moved, the cultural shock was there. But just because I was open-minded, over time, start learning to use blinds to cover your windows at 3 a.m. when it's still sunning out and things like that. That was one side. But in terms of science, one of the things that has actually helped me is um, my challenge coming to med school was different. But then as a physician now, I have all the time. Most of my time is just to see patient, clinical related things. See patient, I don't have much time for research. The only time I have for research, you can have for research during residency, maybe it's like 3 months. You can do elective for 3 months. But here is what you can do that don't require you even going to the lab or anything. There are things called meta-analysis. You can take people's data
Yeah.
and see, just in the evening, you do stuff like that. You take data, you analyze it. This was a big challenge for me. When I started my residency, I was so I'm like, okay, I won't be able to do research. But then I found other ways to actually compensate for that opportunity, when I say opportunity, you can't do research for a year during residence. You can't because you don't have the time. So looking for ways to do things you want to do differently is one thing I think has helped me navigate my difficult part.
Thanks. And Tanya, do you have anything to share regarding that as well? Like any challenges you faced in your career and how you were able to adapt from that?
Yes, absolutely. So the toughest point in my life that is self-imposed, not like in my whole life, like other people I blame for like my childhood, like, ah, it's my parents. So self-imposed was the time between doing my PhD, also being a teacher and also starting companies, and then finishing my PhD to go into industry. That was one of my toughest times ever in my life till now. And knock on wood, I have wood right here. Knock on wood, it stays that way. And how I navigated that was not the most healthiest way. But one thing I want to actually leave you guys with is it gets better, right? So now I have like 3 startups under my belt. They've all failed, but I've just come out stronger each time. So it gets better. I literally left my previous startup like 2, 3 months ago, and I have a better job than I had in my startup as a founder. So the key thing about there is there like a template I could give you guys to be like, oh my gosh, this is how it's done. This is how I navigated it. No, I stumbled, I fell, but the most important thing, I got the hell up. And then the most important thing is to know that it gets better with time. Like honestly, like I kid you not, who I am now versus like 5 years ago, totally different people. And it's because each time it hurt, I got up and then just started going again. So my advice would be, if it's advice at all, it's, do I have a template of like what helped me? No. Is it going to be horrible? Yes. Can you get up and end up in a better place? Absolutely. That's all I got.
Good to hear that. Yeah, I think it's important to just be able to get up and keep going, even despite how much life has thrown, different punches and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes sense. And so I guess for all of you, you guys have mentioned those challenges and how you've been able to adapt. And so like I guess a little bit more like professionally, um, how do you continue to like develop yourself professionally, especially considering how everything is rapidly changing, especially even in the neuroscience world with the incorporation of like AI, language processing, all of those things. Like, how do you develop yourself professionally as things keep changing? Um,
All right. So for me, I like last week I called my niece. She actually posed this same question. She's in medical school, so she texted me and be like, "What do you think I need to do right now to put myself in a better position to eventually maybe practice in the US and things like that?" And I told her one thing: learn, look beyond wherever you are and learn something new, learn a new skill. Now, this is the age of AI, right? Things are going, I don't want to use, lack of a better word, crazy, right? So my recommendation, and not an advice, yeah, my recommendation is learn something new. As if you're in, irrespective of what you do, be it research, be it something else, if you can learn like some analytical skill, meta-analysis, systemic review, things that don't require you being in a lab or somewhere, I think is very important. So learning a new skill will take you far. And if you can integrate AI and some machine learning into that template would actually go far. I think, in the next few years, I think that would be a good thing to learn.
I mean, if you are like me and you're like down with AI, you could potentially. So what I sometimes do is I sit and I think, okay, what precisely makes humans human? So I know it's a big like philosophical question, but thinking about that and then thinking, okay, what skills do I need that basically AI then can't do? Or it can do it, but it just cannot do it as well.
Okay.
And I think that is just what a lot of us are going to, have to essentially figure out. And I do understand that things are moving rapidly, but I found that actually leaning back on skills that I sometimes ignored whilst doing neuroscience is what's keeping me employed, if that makes sense. So I'm currently doing a big story writing project for a massive funder. And the only reason why I can do that is because they kind of want a kind of human interpretation of people's lived experiences. And that was something I did when I was in college as in, what do Americans call it?
College,
So
university,
before uni, so before uni, think
high
before
school.
that. Yeah, high school. Yeah. So leaning on the like story writing skills and poetry skills from high school. AI can do it, but it can't do it as well as me. So start trying to kind of lean into those more human skills because I do think they are going to become extremely rare going forward. Even reading and writing, like physical writing,
Yeah,
people can't write anymore.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Calligraphy is a real thing. Just to give you an
Yeah.
example, like they're
Yeah.
paying for that now.
Yeah,
So
they are.
that makes sense. Tanya, any?
I mean, I echo both of the speakers. Honestly, there's a lot more to like the human touch now that everything else can be automated. That is like below, like everything you think you could do as an entry-level person can be done, right? So now it's like there's more about networking, getting the right people in the room, knowing the right people. So do indeed do that. Oh, if you can't do it, find someone who can do it for you and like raise up your profile name. That is like one thing. That is like a skill set in its own to find the right people to do that for you. And then at the same time, there's also value in like if you know something extremely well, because if you ask AI right now to solve the unsolved problems in like physics, it knows all. Apologies for swearing. So if you're extremely good at neuroscience and you have something that has never been done before, do not be deterred. Like go for it, but know that it is a very narrow field and it's going to be very, very difficult. The alternative is not, because I chose the alternative, right? I chose to like go broad. And as I went broad, I realized there are challenges because there's 20,000 Tanyas in the world who can do exactly as I do, speak the way I can speak. So now that is your competition, not the narrow focus of how good you are academically. So I would say there are options either way, but be careful how you choose. It determines, and also choose how you like, to be honest. Follow your heart. Yeah.
Well, that makes Oh wow. So thank you guys for sharing those qualities or those skills that, I think are important for us to be able to embody and use. So with that, I think also like if we're thinking about like having a global career, so and also having like an international impact, you guys have mentioned all the things you've done, but like how does someone who is trying to get into the global market, where should they even start in order to, be where you guys are, or even be able to do the things you guys are doing?
Mm.
For me, it's a very unfair question, to be honest. Because I'm in semiconductors, inherently it's global. Like we can't build a chip in like the UK alone. You have to build it everywhere. So this is where coming back from like being a neuromorphic engineer who was doing a chip in a lab to like scouting around and being where I am at the moment, I've expanded and inherently I have to work with like nine like in our company alone, we have like 34 engineers and all of them are like around 9 different countries and I have to work with them. So that alone is international before I even go to like stakeholders in the government. So I would say for me, this answer is kind of like a bit of a cop out because I'm like, hey, it comes with the region, but um, it happened because I could have gone many different ways, but it happened because I ended up where I am. So I don't have a good answer for this one. I'll leave it to the other two panelists.
Mine's a little bit different because my context is obviously very specific to the UK. However, when I'm kind of looking at race and race relations, that can potentially have a global view. However, I am very specifically focused on one. But I think one thing about, and I am not sure where our listeners are in terms of their careers, but being in unis is really, really helpful because you could literally contact another uni and say, hey, can I do a month in your lab? You can find funding that basically allows you to travel. I did that last year and I was in Latin America for like for 4 months just traveling around and learning about race from that perspective. So there are other ways of doing it. But again, you can email people. I had a academic in Mexico City host me and just show me around their like mental health facilities. So I think you just have to be bold. And I think especially um globally, people are really nice and people genuinely want to help. And I think even Black in Neuro, like you've got so many different people in so many different places. You could just contact them, see kind of whether someone can like host you. Is there any kind of funding in their uni? So the opportunities are there, you just have to find it. But if you are like me and your like research is very place-based, you can broaden that and kind of just take it as a bit of a learning
Yeah.
exercise and travel. Why not?
Yeah. Traveling's good. Douglas?
Yeah, just to echo what you said. This is like me almost repeating what you just said. Now, I was gonna say exactly that. So people tend to overlook the place of or the importance of summer schools and exchange program, especially in Europe. Um, yeah, I can't even emphasize this enough. So exchange programs, it's just one of those programs that takes you from, you might still be a student in your old school, but it takes you from where you are to
Mm,
an entirely different country where you can
mm,
have experience. And remember, it doesn't matter if that's an exchange program or whatever, you can add that to your resume as part of your experience, right? So you can always look for summer opportunities, exchange programs, and that will actually take you out from wherever you are to where you're going. I'll give you an example myself. So I started my master's in protein science and biotechnology in Finland. And then in the course of protein science and biotechnology, we had an opportunity. I think I was like a year into my master's. So we had an opportunity to take an elective. I took an elective in neurobiology and I loved it. So I got a scholarship at that time to even do more biotechnology, but I went to the dean at that time and I told them, I know you guys brought me from Nigeria because of this. I think I actually love something better.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of discussion and then they told me, okay, how can we help you? So they're like, you can apply to other places where you can do neuroscience. So I chose, just like what the other speaker said, I was bold enough. I chose three schools: Oxford, Cambridge, and University of Sydney. I emailed these schools and they asked me to send my application that they can do like a joint master's program. And I did that. And of course, I got rejected from Cambridge. I got rejected from University of Sydney, and Oxford accepted me. And so I was able to move from Finland and then go over to complete my master's in England. So why am I saying this? I can give you multiple examples where I just moved from one country in Europe to the other just because of an exchange program in summer school. So don't despise or
mm.
overlook those rare opportunities of just going to a place to do like 3 months. 3 months can turn to 3 years, and then you might even end up staying there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I completely second that. I saw a summer school for Trinidad and Tobago. The topic was basically gender, war, and conflict. Is that my field? Nope. But did I want to go Trinidad? Yeah. So I just applied for the thing and I got a scholarship to go. And then from that, I basically ended up co-editing a special issue journal from the summer school. So again, is it my field? Mm-mm. But do I have a poem that's been published in that and edited it? Yeah. And again, you can just see things, and even if it doesn't apply, I think having a global perspective is incredibly important, especially for racially and ethnically marginalized individuals.
I
Yeah.
mean, if I just might add,
Yeah.
both examples that you just mentioned for the past two speakers are basically saying yes. So again, go back and just say
Go
yes.
back.
You see something that you want, go for it.
Yeah.
Be brave and be like, oh, I want to be in Trinidad. You know what I mean? For whatever
Yeah.
reason, apply for it, go. So that's like literally it. Like I feel like at times we put a lot of like, weight on decisions. Will it work? Will it not work? What do people think? No one cares. Just do it. Yeah,
Mm,
honestly, just go for it.
Yeah, I think the overall theme is that just go for it, be bold and whatnot. So that
Yeah.
definitely makes sense. I guess with that, I wanted to ask, this is kind of like a personal question in a sense that if you're looking into your career, like just you're trying to share your career in general to someone who may be interested, like what things should they even be on the lookout for? Because I feel like personally in my field, being in the health informatics space, there are so many different roles or whatnot that come up. But if you're not really in that space, you won't know that this exists. And so, what are some of those careers or the names of those careers that people could, you know, get in
mm.
the
Yeah,
space?
mine is sort of mine's easier. So things like head of race, equity, head of data and evaluation. So I also worked for like 4 years in a data and evaluation network. So a lot of neuroscience people, like some of you do a little bit of psychology, and with that psychology comes different skills like interview skills or like survey skills. You can then look at data roles, analysis roles, quantitative researcher roles. So there are a lot of different things you can sort of put in, but for me, it's things like head of data, and then I just go through what kind of jobs are like head of impact, head of research, and then you just kind of look at that. But I think importantly too, just read what the job description actually is, because some of these titles are really obscure
Yeah.
and and they don't often know how to phrase it right to kind of make it make sense. So read what the JD is, and if you meet maybe even 60% of the person spec, apply.
Got it. It's great advice.
I have a slightly different view, not because I disagree, but because of how I'm thinking about if I knew what I knew now, what would I do like 5 years ago, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, I would say like a lot of the people who are in this room are really, really smart. We are like, the neuroscientists, like top universities, overeducated, all this good stuff. And we find ourselves not being educated in the world outside of academia. And
Mhm.
for me, my real learning came outside of academia, outside doing my PhD. I'm not even going to lie about it. Everything I've built so far, the PhD helps. Dr. Mangoma, PhD Cambridge, nice touch. However, I can walk in and talk to an MP. That's different. So it's like for me, is that education around everything else. So for that, I would advise like two career kind of like things that you can do that are really, really easy to get into. Find a VC that is doing like founder in residence, or like come join us and become a founder. We'll give you money to like, you don't have to have an idea, just come with vibes. In the UK, this is like Entrepreneur Plus, Antler, Zinc. They'll pay your bills for you to sit there and think about an idea and think about being a founder. You don't have to end up being a founder, a CEO, anything. You can quit anytime. But for the first time in my life, when I did a founder in residence, it was actually at Deep Science Ventures. I had time to just sit down and think about science and product and if I wanted to do this at all. And to be honest, I spent most of my time in Spain, in Madrid. I'm gonna lie. So there's that space to do that. The second area I found very interesting to do stuff like this was in government, right? In government, they always have calls for like people like who are in the technical background to come in and become like an intern for like 6 months, or like do like they call it something specific like a there's a fancy name they have it because they don't want to call you interns. But you go in there and all of a sudden you now have the policy side of things, right? Because we're always in the lab thinking about how we're going to do a lab thing. You never think about how do we commercialize this? How does that impact on, like, the government? So those two areas are things I should have done earlier, but ended up doing anyway. But it's like one of those two things I'm like, at least I'm not just a one-trick pony who knows how to like select cells from a petri dish. I now know how to advocate for myself when it comes to government. And and this is one of the things that I've actually found I actually love. Arguing with MPs is amazing. Just so you
Oh,
know.
it's so fun. It's so
It's
fun.
great. It's great. You call
So
them
fun.
idiots left, right, and center. It's great. But so having those opportunities to be in those doors is amazing. And also having that entrepreneurship part, it's like they throw you into something, you don't know anything, but you now are given the space to think, what am I doing with my life, right? Like, okay, this is great science. Do I want to be a scientist or do I want to have impact? That's like the thing that actually happened to me. Do I want to be great at being a scientist and maybe end up being like a postdoc and maybe like a professor at some university? Or do I actually want this stuff to be in automotive and robotics and in data centers? And they give you that chance to have that exploration as a founder in residence or as basically look up Entrepreneur First, Zinc Ventures, DSV. There's another one in the UK. If you're in the US, there's so much more, honestly. And they give you the opportunity to have that space to think. Is it what do you want to do with your life? Is it entrepreneurship? If it's not, I'm not right now a founder, by the way. I'm a chief product officer at a company that's established to some extent. But all that experience that I brought with me got me here. And
Mm.
yeah, so you don't have to end up being the next Elon Musk. You can end up being laid back and having afternoons talking about it. So FYI.
Keep going. Got it. That makes sense. Douglas, do you have anything?
Not much. I think everyone kind of said what I was about to say. So the only thing I would say, I know there's this saying that go big or go home, right? Everyone kind of say that. But here's the thing. One of the things that kind of discourage people from doing, like, maybe let's even use medicine as an example, is the long years of training, right? But if you're still interested in practicing and you don't want to put all the years in, there are like some other things you can do. I'll give an example. Being a nurse practitioner, right? You can go to nursing school, get your master's, especially in the I'm talking about the US now. So
Yeah.
then you spend less time, you become a practitioner, a provider, like the insurance company calls it, and then you're still able to do something close to what you want to do,
Mhm.
but with less time, right? And that's one thing. Another example is nurse anesthetics, right? So these people finish, like, I think it's the 3 years. I don't know how many years exactly, but it's way shorter. They don't do much residency, but straight out of that, they start earning six figures. So these are some of, I think we really need, like, the career talk. Like, tell people that you don't just finish PhD and join the bandwagon of, like, oh, I want to be a postdoc. Oh, I'm gonna be like an academic. No, there are more things. There are a lot of things you can do. Don't join the bandwagon just because everyone that graduates from your lab after a PhD, they're trying to climb the academic ladder that is like a pyramid. The
Mm.
top is very tiny. The base, there are a lot of people. So I don't know how many people got a PhD end up becoming a PI. So
Mm.
what am I saying? Don't just join the bandwagon. Talk to people that have gone ahead of you and get the advice before you make a big transition.
Yeah.
And yeah, currently in the UK, that academic ladder is on fire. So
Oh my.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great. I'm happy to hear, and I'm hopefully the audience has been able to get, some things from what you guys have said. And so that is great. And now I want us to transition a little bit to our lightning round. So for our audience, I'm going to ask our panel speakers a list of questions, and they have to answer within 30 to 60 seconds. And so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start with the first one. And I'm going to open the floor to Douglas to answer this in 30 to 60 seconds. So, what is one skill everyone should invest in? Oh, you're muted again, Douglas.
Yeah, I actually don't have one particular skill, but I have like an umbrella, transferable skill. I'll give you an example. If you're working in a place and they're doing one thing, it's good to learn that thing, but learn to know what is going on in the next door, what they're doing elsewhere, and learn a skill that is not only useful where you are, but when you leave your current position, you can use it elsewhere. That's one thing.
Okay, you were just under the 60 mark. Tanya, how about you? What's one skill everyone should invest in?
Show up, get into those rooms that you think are very difficult, you're not qualified enough, you're not good enough. Go in and show your best self. And your best self is not being a woman, being Black, being an immigrant, or all that. It's what you academically or talented or your skill set is that you use your prime thing. Go in and do that, and that's your biggest skill set. Take you far.
Awesome, awesome. Famata?
Yeah, I'm just going to follow that up, but I'm going to be specific about, so you've got some workshops that basically people do around public speaking. Invest in that, because that will help you in a range of different things. It will help you in networking. It will help you in pitching yourself. So yeah, public speaking skills, invest in that. Yeah.
Makes sense. Second question. What's the best career advice you have ever received?
The best career advice I ever received was from my PhD supervisor when I told her about an opportunity. She said, anytime you want to figure out what to do, just ask, what will I learn? And go from there.
Nice. I like that. I have to take that. I
What
like
will I
that.
learn?
I
Yeah.
like that. Tanya, what is the best career advice you've ever received?
And this is one of like the key kind of like pivot points, and that's why I always mention it. It was one of my friends, best friends. She's German. She took me out for a fancy dinner, which was Greek, with a tons of wine. And she said, if I were you, I would do a startup. And then she was trying to like guilt me. The best advice I ever got was literally, you're an idiot for not taking this opportunity because you're bright. So that's it.
Nice.
For me, the best advice I ever got was actually from my master's thesis supervisor, Professor Somoji in Oxford back then. He said, stay inquisitive. Just there was nothing else. Stay inquisitive. Like every day of my life, that kind of teaches me to challenge the status quo.
Yeah,
As a scientist, if you see how things are going, don't just take it black and white, be inquisitive. That's it.
that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay, now we're getting into just, a little bit more about you guys, but what's one book, podcast, or resource that has influenced your career?
Yes, for me, it was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, Kesey. It was written in the 60s, and it's very specifically about a criminal who basically fakes being insane so that he can be put in a mental hospital. And there is also a film. I read that book when I was 16, and from that, just in kind of my background, being from Sierra Leone and kind of seeing mental health issues really just kickstarted everything. I then ended up doing an extended project when I was 16 about schizophrenia. I then did a neuroscience degree, so on and so forth. So yeah, it's literally like one book literally formed,
Propelled everything about you, yeah.
propelled everything. Yeah.
Douglas, what about you? What's one book, podcast, or resource that has influenced your career?
So for me, it was Ben Carson's book, the three of them. Gifted Hands, Think big and the big picture. I read that back in Nigeria and yeah, it changed my life forever. Just talking about a black man that happened to be the first neurosurgeon. That happened to be the first black neurosurgeon at Hopkins. Yes, it was, yeah.
Got it. Got it. Tanya, how about you?
I'm gonna disappoint everyone. For me, it was not a book or a podcast. It was actually sci-fi. There's
Oh,
a sci-fi series called Fringe. It was one of the first sci-fis I fell madly in love with. They talk about everything that could be possible in like the far future and how it actually impact reality right now with a bit of a stretch. And that got me thinking and being curious about science and technology in general. And now I always have that lens when I do stuff. I always think about, oh, in 5 years' time, we could have a brain machine interface that does A, B, C, D. And that's why I'm doing this. And everything else becomes noise.
Tanya, I actually have to agree with you. The same thing happened to me. A sci-fi was the main thing that got me to think, oh, we could invent that. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
sci-fi has saved my life, has propelled me to do what I'm doing.
Same here. Like I'm here, like I'm doing all this work just so we could have fancy chips. Like I don't care about everything else. It becomes noise, like gender, race. I'm like, whatever. Are we going to get the chip though? So it's quite
We
interesting.
should all read sci-fi. If
Yeah.
anyone's wondering, please read a sci-fi book. Okay, next question. What's one thing you wish you had known as a graduate student or postdoc? One thing.
No one knows what they're talking about.
Oh,
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Everyone's pretending no one knows what they are talking about because often we sort of look at people and we're like, oh my God, they are so great at everything and, they are so super accomplished. And then you speak to them and you pull back the layers and everyone is just trying to figure it out. It's okay. No one knows. Everyone is just figuring it out.
Makes sense. All right. Douglas or Tanya, who wants to answer?
I'll go next. Mine one is it gets better with time. Like honestly, every time you get into a field or get into a space, you're new, you're naive, you don't know what you're doing, everyone will push down on you. But it takes time and grit for you to get to a point where you're like, I'm actually really good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm that person. So it gets better with the time, and with time you get to a point where you're like, actually, damn. So just stick with it. It gets better with time.
Okay. And Douglas, what's one
From
thing you
me,
wish you had known?
optimize skill building, not just publication. Sometimes we get lost in this rabbit hole of getting 20 publication, 50 publication and high impact paper. Optimize skill building. Just build your skills, transferable ones.
Got it. Got it. I definitely agree with that. Always build skills. Always just be open to learning and being able to acquire things that will help you. So that makes sense. All right, this is the last question before we get to Q&A. In one sentence, what's the key to building a fulfilling global career?
Find your why and always say yes.
And mine is absolutely similar to that. Follow what you love. Like there's no way in hell I would be doing anything that I'm doing if I did not want to see a specific type of technology being what it is. Everything else is noise. I kid you not. Find what you love and stick with it, and then everything else becomes noise.
Sense. And Douglas?
Don't be stuck in your comfort zone. Be
Mm.
ready to move. Like be open-minded and be very ready to move. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you all for this wonderful discussion. Before we close out, I would love to open the floor to any questions that may have come in, or if our audience, if you have any questions, please be free to drop something in the chat and we can go ahead and answer them. I guess for me, I had a question while we wait for those to come in. So in your current careers, like right now, for all of you, what is something like a hard skill that you think maybe in the future would be very much like applicable to just in the future? Like it's very much like, okay, this skill is something that I'm learning right now in my current field, and it will continue to be like ever be long let me rephrase myself. It will be something that in the future will also still be used like 10 years from now. Like this is a skill that I'm going to have and will continue to use. And maybe it's something that our audience can maybe start learning now, for instance.
I feel like for me this is very difficult because like I'm now in like the space of semiconductors. So the skills that I know that, AI is not taking anytime soon, are quite different. But maybe they're transferable, especially if anyone here is doing like brain machine interfacing or human machine interfacing technologies in neurotech. Those are going to be very difficult to replicate because there's a lot of consideration on data flow. It's very specific, but when it comes to that particular part, I think it's worth investing your time in the interface of neuroscience and tech and data and how data is being moved around. Very specific, but very, very, AI is not going to be able to take it anytime soon, just so you know.
Got it.
Mm. In my current role, I'm doing quite a lot of work on race, racism, decolonization, because our current environment is really, really tense right now. And the kind of ability to speak to people, understand people, yeah, that's gonna be required. So understand who people are, how to maneuver that, and how to maneuver difficult interpersonal situations. Yeah.
Well, Fatmata just echoed what I just said, echoed what I was about to say. People skill. That's what I'm working on right now, personally. Because as you like right now, as I become a senior and I have like other maybe physicians under me, you just learn to manage people. Learn to manage people because if you're a chaotic leader, then the whole system is going to be chaotic. So I think people skill is one big thing.
And would you say with the people skills that it's also important to, because a few of you, like you're in leadership positions in a sense, like what do you think helps with being a good leader as well?
Listening, oh, go ahead, family, go.
No, go. I was just
Yeah. I'm a type that be someone says you have two ears and one mouth because you're supposed to listen more than talking. So be a good listener. Actually hear what people want to say before you contribute. And if when you contribute, let it be constructive kind of criticisms, something you tell them that will make them better, as opposed to demoralizing them and making them feel worthless.
Mhm.
mm.
And
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just gonna add on to that. Like it's one of those is like obviously motivate them to bring you with them, but
Mm.
also you need to have the Northern Star, right? A lot of leadership, kind of like talent is literally going like, guys, if we do A, B, C, D, we go to that Star and we all benefit. And that is like one leadership talent that it is taking me a long time and I'm still kind of cultivating it, but having to like get like people to follow you and go with you where you want to go it's a challenge. And you have to be convincing, you have to have conviction, you have to have that kind of like gumption, like, and to have that is one skill I would say if you want to be a leader in that respect do have that because it's hard to be able to convince a lot of people about something that you could be like, actually, I'm like 80% involved. And like, but you need to be able to be like, it's 110%. I'm ready for it. And then you bet on me, I'm betting on you, and we go. So leadership is about being confident in yourself as well as like in convincing other people and taking them along the journey with you. And that's really difficult. Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Some of the previous work I've done around research culture, especially in the PhD field, is about empathetic leadership. So I kind of lean more towards that, especially because I manage a range of different types of people as well. So like Douglas says, it's about understanding your kind of team, how they are feeling. Active listening is really important, but then also being very careful to respond with care. And that for me is kind of how I lead my teams. I am very sort of goal focused. So we've got this goal, we've got these targets, we basically meet them, we can't miss it, but there's a way of doing that where kind of you are taking your team on a journey. And to be honest, I have had some really bad leaders, so I have learned how not to be a bad one from that.
Yeah, I can definitely echo that. I've had a few bad leaders, and I think that's what has taught me of what not to do.
Don't do that.
Like, so we actually do have a few questions from our Q&A. The first question is having a background in computer science necessary to have a neuroscience career?
Mm-mm.
And
No.
I guess I'll
So
even add on to that, okay, like what background do you think is important to have a neuroscience career?
I think it depends because neuroscience is super broad. So you can go cellular, molecular, you can go cognitive, you can go socio, neuro, like it's so broad you can find. I didn't do comp sci, I can code, but I code in R.
Mhm.
I don't know Python and I haven't needed to because the kind of work I do focuses more on getting that data research and then doing stats and analysis in R. So no, I don't do comp sci, never opened Python. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, because it's so broad, it depends on where you're trying to fit.
Yeah, and I actually echo that a lot. So I actually started as a material scientist and engineer who turned into a neuromorphic engineer. And now I'm like a semiconductor engineer, like so many pivots. And throughout all of that, I could get away without coding. I code because I can, but you do not have to do it. You don't have to know comp science. I know comp science because I'm making computer chips that work like the brain. That's why I have to do it. But again, you do not have to. The field of neuroscience is so vast. There's so many things that you can do that you don't even have to know what the next person is doing. So do not be deterred by, oh, I have to do comp science. And that is the wrong way to think about it.
Douglas, do you have anything
Okay.
to add there or?
So so I went into neuroscience with a biochemistry background. But to be honest with you, I wish I had some computer science background a little bit, not even computer science background. Okay. Okay. I was doing like a lot of anatomy and electrophysiology in my PhD, in my postdoc. But being able to compute and to do some kind of coding, it help you in analysis. Okay. And that will save you a lot of time. If you get big data and you need to analyze that, you need to have a certain level of computational skills or analytic skills. It's not a must. You don't have to get a bachelor's in computer science, but if you can, coding skills and computational skills is, I think it's actually important because neuroscience is actually heading in that direction.
But then also those things are things you can learn online for free. So I code in R and there are so many courses and it's like open source, like YouTube will be your best friend. You can learn how to use Python on YouTube. So it is out there and if you need it, you can, do a little Google, go to the University of YouTube.
Yeah. And also, not to mention, do not underestimate the power of AI. I haven't written code from scratch in like 4 years. I literally prompt like ChatGPT and Claude Code and be like, I want to make ABCD. Could you write me the code? I will read through the code, which is, I think anyone can read code if you know what you're trying to do in the first place, because it's so easy. So I would not waste my time unless you're going to computer science university to like learn about computer science and go into depth with it and fall in love with it. If it's like a side hustle for neuroscience, Claude is your friend. Ask Claude to make your code and then use Colab. Colab is like a Google version of Python where you literally log in with like your Google account. It says copy paste what you've done from Claude into here and I'll execute. Beautiful diagrams, beautiful plots. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So that is a part of like people would spend so much time doing that at entry level. You don't have to do that anymore. This is a part I like about AI, by the way, the things I don't have to do manually. So just an FYI.
That makes sense. So you guys mentioned a few languages. So I heard R, Python. Are there any other like languages that you think are important in the neuroscience career space?
I would say languages are extremely vast, but if you know Python, that's like a baseline because Python is extremely like high level. Like there's like rankings to them. Python is like the bare minimum, but you don't have to even know Python. You just need to prompt Claude to give you Python to put into Colab. And if you want it to be R, then you can be like, but actually I'm using R, Claude. Could you change this into R? Could you change it to C++, C sharp, Ruby? So you don't have to worry about all that, to be honest. All you have to worry about is like the intent. What are you intending to do and intending to get? And that is where the thinkers are going to win in this like economy. Can you think about what you want to do? Because the execution is actually quite cheap when it comes to the AI.
Those Claude tokens, Dr. Tanya, your Claude is working hard.
Girl, don't look at me. The bill is hard.
I completely agree in the sense that whatever way you do it, whether you are like me and you're super pedantic and like you want to know what every single comma does, fine. If you want to put it into Claude, the kind of thing that is really important is the thinking. You have to know what you're trying to do. You might not know how to do it, but you kind of need to be able to do that. So I do a lot of like statistical analysis on massive pieces of data. You have to know how that data is structured. You have to know what kind of these like variables are, how do you change them so that you can basically spot any mistakes and be able to manipulate it. So again, those are things that come with time, and really it's not that difficult. I know a lot of people find it, they're like, oh my God, I have to learn how to code. You just sit down and you just try and read it like a sentence, and at some point it clicks. It's really rough at the start. I cried a couple of times in my undergrad, but at some point it's gonna click.
That's wonderful. So we are nearing that 2-minute mark, but I did want to just give up the floor one more time to each of you to just share just one word or just one thing that you would hope everyone takes from just having a career in neuroscience and from this event. Just one word just to give people.
Creativity.
Creativity. Nice.
Audacity of a white man. Sorry. Audacity of a white man in brackets.
Audacity for that man.
All right, and then this one last word.
Open-mindedness. Be open-minded.
Awesome. Well, thank you to our panel. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your advice and your thoughts on everything. And also thank you to our audience for tuning in and for your questions that are asked. So again, just thank you to everyone who attended today. With that, Neuro Careers is done, but just as a reminder, we encourage everyone to visit our website and to register to become a member of Black in Neuro. Again, it is free and you get access to so many resources, and kind of like what our panel speakers mentioned, you get a network of people that you can connect with. And so with that, also, we're continuing on with our Black in Neuro Week. So please join us tomorrow for our event, Black in Neuro Joy. And that will be occurring at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you once again. We'll see you guys.